Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Jesus Girl Gang Kingdom Business Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Pyle. And today, friends, we're going to be talking about why you keep starting over in your business and the one decision that you haven't made yet that can actually stop that cycle. Okay. So I know that we've been on a bit like a day of a hiatus or a week hiatus because I was delivering my launch lab last week. So I know that some of you were in there with me, and I hope you had a really great experience inside the launch lab. Let me know in the comments if you were a part of that. I would love to know. Also, make sure that you're following me over on Instagram so that we can actually have chats like in the DMs. I'm Erica Pyle over on Instagram. So you can just come and find me over there. And let's just chat. I want to know what kind of a business you're building. And I would love to know that you're listening to the podcast and a little bit about what you do and what you're building. Because if you've been with us for any amount of time around here, you know that this podcast is really my hope and my desire for this podcast is that it would be a done with you experience as much as a podcast can be. So, we're on episode 18 right now, but the first 17 episodes, I've just continued to remind you over and over and over again, like this is a place where you can actually you can make that decision to start launching the business that God has given you to build. And you can learn things here that you could actually implement into your business as we go along. In every episode, I make sure to give you a micro action step for the week. And so I've always encouraged that if you've been listening, like you should have a notebook. You should have something that is a notebook that's just for this podcast, the Kingdom Business Podcast Notebook. And then you'll always have like place to work on whatever that action step is, and you can be working on your business as you go. Because my podcast is really for that ambitious Christian woman who's multi-passionate. She's spirit-filled. She wants to do all the things, hashtag all the things, but she knows that she's called to build something online, a business, a ministry, and she's meant to have impact and make income with that. And I know you're like, ministry, make income. Yeah, well, you've got to raise support in a ministry, right? A ministry is meant to do something. It's meant to support something. God is telling you that you need to go and serve a people group. And so the same concepts apply to a kingdom ministry as to a kingdom business when we're setting that up online. And so the same mindsets, the same way of setting out offers, the same way of gathering audience, people that you're going to serve, how you sell or raise funds, donations, and systems that you have to build in the back end. And so the Build with Faith framework, which is what we teach on this podcast, the 5-step Build with Faith framework, mindset, offers, audience, sales, and systems, right? It works no matter whether you're doing a business or a ministry. So when I started this podcast, I said, you know what? I want something where we can come together once a week and it can feel almost like a college course. Like you're auditing a college course, let's say. There needs to be some buy-in. There needs to be some level of ownership and some fire around saying, you know what? I know that I'm meant to do this. I know God has called me to do this. And I just need to lock in with someone who's got that kingdom sound on their life, someone who's a coach and who's willing to like call me up forward and upward every single week as I pursue this purpose that God has placed on my life. So if that's you, then this is the podcast for you. Because I work with the starters. I work with the people who, they've got the vision and maybe they've even started building things out. But maybe this is you, because this was where I was when I started this particular iteration of my business. And this is a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So when I started in entrepreneurship, again, because I did it back in my 20s, but when I came back to it, it was 2015. And I came back in as a certified holistic health coach. I'd gotten my holistic health coaching certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I decided that I was going to hold myself out as that holistic health coach, but I didn't want to do the traditional one-on-one coaching. And so what I decided to do was I partnered with a health company in an MLM, like in a direct sales marketing situation, because I really believed in their products. And God was showing me this was a set of products that I should incorporate into my business. And then I decided I was going to do more of a group coaching method. And so I created group programs that I brought people through. And, I had a 21-day reset and a 30-day cleanse, a 30-day sugar detox, and then like a 6-week cleanse. And I walked people through those programs for a number of years. And I was fine. Like I was getting sales, and I'd grown my organization that in the marketing, the marketing company that I was partnered with for the health products. I had grown that to probably, like, I was serving, I think, like almost 200 families, and I had a nice little thing going on. It was giving me a monthly paycheck, and I was growing my audience, and I had social media going, and everything was fine. It just wasn't full. And if I look back on that time, what I realize is that I was really starting over a lot. I think from 2015 until probably 2022, let's say, I, if you asked me, what do you do? I would have said, I'm a certified holistic health coach, and I coach people around their health. But I was also toying with the idea of wanting to be a business coach. I also pastored a local church, and still do, alongside my husband. And I have a women's ministry, Revive Woman. And so I had a lot of things going on. So if someone were to ask me, like, what do you do? I would have led with, well, I'm a holistic health coach. Like, that's what I do in my business. But if I'm honest, when I would look at what I was doing in my business, I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't. And for many years, like, as I grappled with who am I in this space, it really impacted my behavior. It really impacted what I did, and ultimately then impacted my results. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because if you have found yourself in business for, any amount of time, but like usually this is people who've been in business for a year, 2 years, 4 years, maybe 6 years, you're getting to that point, and it's like nothing is sticking. Nothing is feeling like it's firing and actually producing momentum. You're not getting growing results, that kind of thing. Then you might want to consider what we're talking about in this episode today, because it really comes down to, why is it that you keep on starting over? Now, you might be like, Erica, I'm not starting over. I'm not. I know, like, this is my business, and this is the company that I've grown, or I'm partnered with. This is the product. This is the offer. These are the people that I serve, right? But have you been switching strategies every few months? Have you been tweaking your offer, like, constantly? Have you taken like 90 days to just keep everything the same and just served? Or is it constantly like, well, I got to take that other workshop. I got to take that other class. I got to, I'm going to watch that YouTube video. I'm going to figure this out. And you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm just up leveling. I'm just adding on. I'm just getting better. But the reality is, are you still tweaking your offer? Are you still trying to decide, like, am I selling on social media? Am I building my email list? Am I building a course right now? Like, what am I going to do? I'm starting a podcast this week. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. The reason why I know what this looks like is because I've done it all. I did it all for, like, how many years is that? For almost 7 years. I did that. I just kept on trying new things and switching up the strategies and switching up the offer and tweaking this and tweaking that and all the things. And all the while, what I didn't realize was I wasn't settled on who I was in my business. And I kept on questioning whether I was the girl for the job. And here's the kicker. Get ready for this. The kicker was that ultimately I didn't want to be the health coach. That was the kicker. Ultimately, I wanted to be the business coach. I wanted to be the breakthrough business coach. I wanted to be the woman who helped other kingdom women get their sound out into the world so that they could have impact and make income. That's really, like, I am all about women getting their sound out in the world. And your sound might be a solution. It might be a product. It might be a service. But this is the thing that God is calling you to. And I was really amped about that. And so even when I was back in the health coaching space, I also was building a team inside of that marketing company that I was working with, that had the health products. And that was my favorite part, was actually encouraging those women to build their businesses. But for me, what wound up happening was there were always people that were asking me, like, do you do coaching on the side? Like, do you do coaching on the side? And I would always have to be like, oh, well, I coach the people that are in my team. And I was like, if you want to be a part of my team, then I could coach you in that. And I eventually did some products for my users, for my product users. So I did some programs and stuff like that. And that's how I got into that. But quite frankly, there came a moment one year when I launched a membership for the health coaching. And I launched it and I sold to people and I made a few $1,000s. And 3 days later, God said, give all the money back. Because the bottom line is, and it took me a few years to realize this, but what I realized was this isn't who I am. This isn't the core of who I want to be in my business. This isn't what I want to do. And I think a lot of times we look at what is possible and we let that define us, what we think is possible. So an example of this is I just finished out, like I told you, the Launch Lab. And before that, I had done another program called Plan Your Year. And so I've had these back-to-back programs, workshops that I did. And I got to work with some new women as a part of these workshops. And one of the things that I do in these workshops is I generally offer like a VIP level where you can have a one-on-one with me. You get a coaching day, a group coaching day. And then we have this Voxer thread where it's a week of coaching, group coaching. And so through the course of those VIP experiences, and in some of them I do it with the base ticket, I get to meet these people as I'm coaching them. And so we're talking about their offer, we're talking about their audience, their ideal customer, all these things, right? And what I've heard time and time again, it's like on repeat, is that I will see women putting themselves into a box in their business, who they are in their business, because of what they feel confident they can safely serve to. They're like, I could do this all day long. And I'm like, yeah, but if you did that all day long, would you feel like you want to die? Is there something else that makes your soul sing? Is there something else that you know you were made for? Is there something else that God is calling you to? Because when you're telling me about this is the safe play. And you know what? Maybe in the world, some people would be like, well, you already have that built. You've already got 80% of that done. So yeah, go with that idea because that's the fast money. Can I tell you something? Even if it made you money, it would probably kill your soul. Like you do not want to be making that decision. And a lot of times the reason why we're constantly starting over, maybe even though it doesn't look like you're starting your business over, but you're switching the strategy, you're switching the offer, you're switching the messaging, you're switching the strategy, right? That is a result of I don't feel confident enough in who I am in this thing. And so I'm going to keep on shifting all the things, all the accoutrement, all the different things around me in hopes that maybe one of those things will make me feel confident. But here's the truth, and this is what I need you to hear. There is no strategy that's going to bring you confidence. It is you deciding who you are and that you are the girl for the job that is actually going to drive those systems and strategies to actually work, to actually find the person that you're looking for to serve, that actually gets that offer sold, that actually grows your business. The first step, and that's the decision that you probably haven't made yet, is this is who I'm going to be no matter what. Because see, when I made the decision that I was going to stop, because in my mind, this was my thought. I'm going to do the certified holistic health coach thing because it's easier to get people to buy a product because it's tangible and people want health products and they want programs. So I kept on saying like, I'll grow my base of users because they want the health help. And I have a personal story around this. And so, and like, I can talk about anxiety and overwhelm and postpartum and adrenal fatigue and all this stuff until I'm blue in the face. Like I could talk about it all day long. But ultimately, that's not what God was wanting me to do. He was wanting me to coach women on how to make their sound in the internet space online with their business or their ministry. And he wanted me to help people build that confidence to get out there and make that sound and not stop. This is Acts 8, verses 9 and 10. Do not be silent. Keep speaking. And so I did that, but here was my thinking. My thinking was, I can do this for a while because it will grow my base, it'll grow my following. And ultimately, out of those people, then I'll get the people who want to do the business side of this thing, and then I'll get to coach them. But it was flawed because it like understand that most users are not going to become business people in that business model. It's like the average is like 6%. 6% of the user base is going to actually want to do the business as a business. So I was shooting myself in the foot every single day. Why was I doing that? Because I'm smart. I've been in really big business. I used to work for a $2 billion publicly traded company as the senior global tax director of accounting. Like, I had a really big job and I had to be really smart and strategic to do what I was doing. And I had to be analytical. So you would think that if I was given the data that is shown that only 6% of the people that are ever going to touch your product and buy product from you would ever even consider doing the business as a business, then why am I counting on this as my big break into business coaching? Why am I thinking this is going to work? Because I felt safe in talking about the health coaching stuff. I felt safe gathering people around that topic. I felt safe offering people these health products because I knew that they could work because they'd worked for me. And I just thought, and quite frankly, if you're in the MLM business, if you're in direct sales, if you're building a team in that space, they tell you all day long, oh, this is a really great entry point into that. Because there are people who that built great big businesses and then they decided to be business coaches on the side. But what they don't tell you is that they had to learn a whole other like way of doing business, because the way that you do business for an MLM or direct sales, even affiliate marketing, is different. And at the time when I was in it, was very different than how you actually build a real thriving business online today. And so I just didn't realize that because I kept on seeing the easy way and going, well, you know what? It feels good because I'm getting people talking to me about this stuff and I'm seen as an expert in this space, and I'm getting a following on social media and I'm selling things and I'm serving families and, I'm doing the thing. But what I didn't realize is that I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't being true to myself. And so it took me a few times. I laid that business down and picked it back up a number of times, because I just was like, but I want to feel successful. But God's like, but I want you to do the thing that I've called you to. I want you to be the person I've called you to be. And I got to tell you something, like, I know people personally who did the business that was easy, that did the business that presented itself. And then they got themselves in such a situation that there was no exit plan. There was no exit strategy. And now they're stuck doing a business because it's paying the bills, but they don't feel alive inside and they feel stuck and they're very anxious. And I know that and some of those people even were like, I finally just had to decide to just leave it. I had to finally just walk away from it and start over again. And so the other option, my friend, is to decide that you're going to be authentically you from the beginning. And you're going to build the thing that God called you to build, as opposed to looking around you and going, oh, I got this little thing that's working like 20%, and I got that thing that's working like 40%. So let me just try and get it all together. So in these last couple of workshops, I've worked with at least 5, probably more women who presented this idea of like, this is what I have. This is what I've been working on. Do you think that it's smart for me to just like finish this up and get this offer out and then go work on the thing that I really meant to do, that I really want to do? And it may have shocked them, but my answer to them was no, absolutely not. That thing is going to wind up becoming a burr in your saddle. It is going to wind up becoming your Ishmael. It's going to wind up becoming the very thing that undoes you. Because if God said it, that settles it. And you need to get to that place of trust and faith in God. I don't know why, but human beings, so many times we think to ourselves, if I can just get stable at this, then I can pivot and do the other thing. What is that stability in the wrong thing going to prove? What is stability or results in the wrong thing going to do for you? Because you're still going to need to pivot and you're still going to need to build this other thing over here. I'm sure that some of the skill sets that you built over there will serve you, but it's not going to serve you to finish out building the wrong thing. Effort in the wrong direction is bad. It's a waste. And I understand that God doesn't waste time and he doesn't waste effort. He doesn't waste your energy. And so you'll always learn something, and there'll always be something that he will, get you as an upgrade over here so that you can use it over here. But I'll tell you what, it's so much better if you hear the Lord and you pivot quickly and you get on the thing that he's calling you to. And so, there's a couple things that I just want to share with you about doing that because, the real reason that I think that we're constantly strategy shifting and shifting up our offer and like trying to change how we're gathering people online and shifting our messaging is because we're just trying to find something that works when instead we really should be looking at who am I in this and what is God telling me to build? Because once we do that, everything falls into place. When I finally did that in 2020, late 2021, early 2022, I think it was, and I started working with a coach who asked me just plainly, are you going to be able to talk about this day in and day out for the rest of your life? Do you feel good about showing up on social media and showing up on all the places and talking about this and nothing else? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, why are you doing it then? And I was like, I finally was honest. And I said, well, I just don't think that anyone will want to work with me if I don't have this background yet. Like until I can hit seven figures in this online business doing it this way, I need to have that in order to be a business coach. And she's like, why? Why do you think you need to have seven figures in order? And I was like, well, because I'm looking at all the other people in the space. And she's like, Erica, like, who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with people that are trying to hit seven figures right now? And I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I want to work with women who have a vision and want to hit their first 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Like, that's my sweet spot. I love it's Zechariah 4, right? It's like, don't despise the small beginnings because God loves to see the work begin. That, like, I have a heart for that. I love that. Now, that doesn't mean that these days I can't help you scale to that place. But where I was starting with like, and she was like, but haven't you done that? Haven't you done that already? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, haven't you even helped other people to do that? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, but then just start there. Just start. You don't need this in order to do this. And I realized that I was putting my own stumbling block in my way because I was making rules up that weren't even true. And so the first step was I kept on starting over and tweaking a bunch of things and trying to make this model work that was never going to work for me because I was too scared to believe that I truly am a faith-based business coach who can help people right now. One of the most shocking moments was I was a few months into coaching, and one day on a group coaching call, I was like, hey, I'm like, does this matter? Like should this be in my messaging anywhere? Should I be talking about this at all? And they were like, what? I'm like, I used to make like a lot of money in a $2 billion publicly traded company as a senior global tax director working on systems and strategy. And I was a strategy engineer, I was a systems engineer, process engineer, and I would help parts of the company to implement, to test, to adjust, to pivot, to improve, and to reestablish systems in the business so that we could pass tests for the SEC and for our audits, and so that we could be more profitable. Does that have anything to do with what I'm doing? And everyone's jaw was on the table. They were like, Erica, you've been talking all this time like you haven't made more than X $1,000 a month. And you're telling me right now that you were making $500,000 in that job? Like, seriously, you know how to manage a X million dollar footnote, like almost $1 billion footnote. Like, you know how to manage that kind of money. And like, you're worried about holding yourself out as a business coach for people that are trying to make their first 5K in a month. Like, seriously, like you're going to allow yourself to look in the mirror and say those things about yourself. And I was like, oh my God. Because what we don't realize is that if God has called us something, it's going to leave clues in our life. It's going to leave clues in our life. Like, I look back now and I'm like, there were so many things in my life that were leading me to this very moment and knowing that I am perfect for this job that I've picked now. And I'm fully confident in my ability to coach women in the business space now online. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what size business you have. Like, I'm good. Like, you could be a billionaire and I could still believe that I could help you. I'm not making $1 billion, but I could help you. Why? Because I'm really good at process. because I'm really good at analysis. I'm really good at pivots. I'm really good at strategizing launches. I'm really good at helping you to get your messaging dialed in. I'm really good at it. And I've helped a lot of people to do it. And the number doesn't actually matter. It doesn't. And so we get so hung up on that. And we're like, I need to prove myself first. I need to have the social proof. I just want to remind you that Noah didn't have any social proof. And thank God he still built the ark, my friends. Come on. Like if he would have worried about social proof, he would have quit. And then none of us would be here. None of us. So it's like we've got to get to a point where we actually believe. Like I know that people are like, oh, well, he believed his own hype and that was the end of him. Listen, you better believe the hype that God has been speaking about you since your birth and before. Like Ephesians 2:10 says that he created works for you to do long before you were born that you might walk in them. And we do these things under the glory of the Lord. Like he has every intention to will and to do according to his pleasure, to will and to do in you, to do this work. But you've got to be willing. And the first step is to say, I'm going to believe who he made me to be. And so one biblical truth that you need to understand right now is that identity is actually chosen before it's confirmed. You have to actually agree with your identity first, and then it becomes confirmed. I mean, just look at Moses. He was the deliverer of the people. He had no resume. But God was like, you're going to deliver my people. He gave 5 different excuses for why he couldn't do it. God was like, yeah, I'm not listening to you. In fact, it says God's anger burned against Moses after the 5th one. He was like, let's stop because I'm not changing my mind. That's what God is saying about you. I'm not changing my mind. This is who I made you and this is what I made you for. And we're going to do this. And so really it comes down to you're not waiting on the Lord. The Lord is waiting on you in that sense. You've got to make a decision that you're going to agree with your identity. And I know that it's hard and sometimes it can be a process, but that's why having this kind of a podcast, being subscribed to it and showing up, I'm going to help you with that. We're going to be talking over the next 8 weeks. I am committed to talking about mindset, the biblical entrepreneur mindset. I made a decision. We've been through all of the 5 Build with Faith framework steps. I've talked to you a little bit about each of them. And then I offered you a few workshops that you could come into so we could start to apply them. Here's the deal. I'm not offering anything for the next 8-9 weeks. I'm going to be delivering my blueprint program. So we just closed the launch lab and there are women who joined the blueprint, the business blueprint that we're about to start. It's an 8-week program with a 9th implementation week bonus. So for the next 9 weeks, basically, I'm going to be focused on helping those women to launch their thing in the next 8 weeks. That's the promise of that course. So I'm not going to be selling anything else. I'm not going to be opening up any other workshops or giving any other opportunities to work with me closely because I am prioritizing those women and talking to this crew, this podcast community about mindset, the biblical entrepreneur mindset. Because here's the thing. If you don't get this piece right, if you don't realize this is who I am, this is what God's called me to, I am God's girl for the job, I can do this. You will never stop with all the tweaking, strategy switching around, starting over, quietly quitting, starting again. You'll never do it. And the reality is the Bible shows us that you've got to agree with your identity first and start moving, and then God will confirm. He did it for Moses. I'm thinking about those lepers that got healed as they went along the way to present themselves to the priest, right? So many situations. The angel of the Lord meeting Gideon down in the wine press while he's beating out the wheat. And he's like, hi, mighty man of valor. And Gideon's like, what? I come from the smallest tribe. Like, what are we talking about? Like, mighty man of valor, you must have it wrong, right? But it's like, confirm the identity first. And the way that we confirm identity is that we move in accordance with. That's how we confirm identity, is personally, how we agree with identity. And then along the way, God will confirm it. So if you don't understand that that's a key biblical concept, then you'll struggle because, and I did it, so I understand. It's like I just kept on going around that mountain and thinking like, no, God, you have to prove. How many times can you ask the fleece to be wet and the ground to be dry? The ground to be wet and the fleece to be dry? Like, how many different times are you going to ask for a confirmation? God's like, Start moving. Start moving. The confirmation will be obvious if you'll just obey me. And so what I have found is with that, you've got to trust and obey. If God told you to do something, then just start doing it. And this is where it comes in that when, especially when I'm working with women on establishing systems or establishing like, this is your offer, this is your messaging, this is your simplified sales system, this is your tech stack, right? So we define those things. The next hardest thing is when I say to them, stay consistent with it for at least 60 to 90 days. I've got a girl that's a woman who's in my mentorship right now. And the Lord loves her so much. I love her so much. But she is trying to break through on her low ticket. And she's put it out there and she hasn't seen a lot of movement. And instead of throwing her hands up, she has stayed committed to it for 90 days. And then she booked a call with me. She had a one-on-one call with me that she had. And so she books it and she's like, hi, I'm here because these are my results. This is what's been happening. And I've looked at my data. I've looked at my community. I've looked at the conversations that I'm having. And I think I need to tweak my offer. Listen, I'm ready to have that conversation with you because you showed up after 60 to 90 days of being consistent and gathering data. You didn't question who you were. You didn't try to quit your business or throw everything out. You just said, you know what? I think I need to make a shift. I'm all in with you. And so we made a few tweaks and now she's working on it and she's going to break through. But the only way that that happens is because she's made a decision that this is who she is. This is who she's helping and she's not going to quit. And so she's allowing God to confirm for her. And here's the thing, you might be like, well, her low ticket isn't selling the way that she wants to. That's what you're saying. Yeah, but you want to know something? The conversations that she's having with her ideal customer in her comments and in her DMs is confirming to her that she's in the right place, that she's helping the right person, that she is on the right track. And so her identity is being confirmed even in what seems like, oh, this is failing, this isn't working. But because her identity is confirmed in the conversations and in the actions, she's going to keep on going. She's not going to quit. We're going to make adjustments and then we're going to measure again. And eventually she's going to win. How do I know that? Well, because it happened for me. It's happened for multiple people that I've helped. It's like, this is just the way. It's just the way. But you've got to understand that, you've got to agree with the identity of who God said you are in this business before you expect the confirmation. The confirmation will come along the way. Now, when this goes on and we feel at risk, we will then, because it feels really scary to keep doing the thing when you're not seeing the results right away. So we might go to things that create false productivity, right? So we're working for the likes, we're working for the vanity metrics, or we're switching around because we know that there are things that we can tweak and then we can get a conversation going. I had someone that I was talking to, she was like, well, I just want to do it like this because I know that my warm market will respond. And I'm like, but will your warm market want the new thing that you're developing that you're meant to develop? She was like, no. I'm like, I agree. I've seen the stats on that. And only at best, 20% of that community is going to go for that. So do you really want to spend the next 4 to 6 months growing this community over here that is never going to go for the thing that you're building over there? Or would you rather go quiet, head down, work on the new thing, serve the people who are in your current community, let them know that something's coming, and then let's start building that new demographic. Let's start building that new ideal customer base. Because that doesn't feel very sexy. That doesn't feel very confirming in the moment. But ultimately, when we get everything built out and now you start talking to that community and you can even start talking to them ahead of time and kind of like pre-launching your thing, you will know. The confirmation will come, but it comes when you first make the decision. So, we tend to, and I did this, I would get a little ways in and then be like, it's not working. Nothing's happening. So then I would go back. And I would get a few more sales and I would double down. There was a point in 2021 when I went all in. I went all in and it still wasn't working. And I was like, how is this? I have everything aligned. I have everything clicking. I've got systems. I've got support. I've got all the things. And it's like, I don't want to be doing this. This is not who I want to be. And I could do the motions, but somehow that comes through. And so, it's like that false productivity. It starts to feel so safe and so good. But it's like a drug. And you have to think like, that's not good for me. But once you decide who you truly are, everything can change. And it just reminds me of James 1, verse 8. And it says, a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And that's how I felt for many of those years. You want to blame it on the strategy. You want to blame it on not having the system. You want to blame it on the market shifting. You want to blame it on something. You're just like, it's all of these other things. And so therefore I have to make these adjustments. But the reality is you've got to make a decision about who you're going to be no matter what, who you're going to serve no matter what. And once you make those decisions, this is who I am, this is how I serve, and this is who I serve. Those are the three decisions that need to be made, and you need to be 100% convicted of those three things. This is who I am. This is how I serve. This is who I serve. Once you know those three things, and you're convicted of those three things, and you are in 100% belief around those three things, that's when things will start to click. That's when it just will start to make sense. And because you'll be able to make decisions faster, because you'll just know that strategy won't work for me because of this, this, and this. I'm sure about these three things. And therefore, any strategy I'm considering, any system I'm considering, any resource, any piece of tech, any coach, anything, you're going to know because these are my three non-negotiables. These are the things that I'm convicted of. And so it's easier to decide on the pieces of your business when you're sure about these three things, when you're sure of who I am, how I serve, and who I serve. And so like ultimately the main decision that I was referring to in the title of this podcast episode, the decision you haven't made yet, is you haven't decided that you're going to go all in on who God says you are in this business. But I think those two sub pieces, how you serve and who you serve, those are also important. I think that they come into who you are. Think back to Moses again, right? He's the deliverer of the people. How is he going to do it? He was going to walk them across the desert. And he was going to, raise up and split the Red Sea, and he was going to lead them through. And who is the Israelites? And he was committed to them. He was committed to them. There was a point when God was like, these stiff-necked people, and I'm just going to destroy them all. And Moses is like, no, Lord, like he goes to bat for them. And that was ultimately, I think, the Lord's plan, was to like show Moses how much of a heart he actually had for this people. But that's the deal. Being convicted about who you are, how you serve, and who you serve, it changes everything. And that's what will ultimately stop you from starting over again and again and again with all your strategies and all the things, and will get you focused. So let's talk about this week's micro action steps. So don't forget, grab yourself, if you haven't yet, grab yourself a notebook of some sort that's just for the Kingdom Business Podcast, because we're always going to be doing work week in and week out. And like I told you, over the next 8 weeks, we're going to be working on the biblical entrepreneur mindset. So it's going to be a lot of journaling. It's going to be a lot of like really challenging ourselves to hook on to the way that God sees us. Okay. So this week, this is your journal prompt. This is your journal question. Where am I waiting to feel confident instead of deciding who I am? Now, that might sound tricky because it's like, ooh, I'm waiting to feel confident because I'm waiting to feel the identity of what God told me. No. You have to decide. And the way that Moses decided is that he finally walked into Pharaoh. The way that Jesus decided is that he got up in the garden and he walked towards that cross, right? He walked towards Judas. He walked into the custody he walked into. And that's how we decide. So it's like, why are you waiting for all the confirmations instead of just deciding, this is who I am. This is who God says I am in this business, right? And I want to reflect, I want to help you, like just a few prompts. Look at where you keep restarting. Look at where you keep switching. Look at the places where you quietly quit, you sit down, you make excuses and say, it's probably not for me. Because in those places, you're going to see where you're doubting yourself, where you're second guessing yourself. And I believe that that's the place to go to and say, okay, what about this was so scary? Like, what about this am I arguing with? Because if God is saying it to me, then it must be that I'm looking for confirmation. So why not just write those things down and get moving? And then we can start looking for the confirmation as we go. But I think it's first most important to write down, what does God say about you? Who are you in this business? Who are you in this ministry? I call it, with my girls, sometimes I'll call it a business tree, because a business can be a ministry, and in fact, it should be. So it's like, who are you? Who does God say that you are in that? And then I want you to choose one small action this week that you can do that actively steps you in to your true identity. So maybe that means that you stop strategy switching, you stop looking for another way to do it, and you just commit to, this is the way that I'm going to do it. Maybe you go all in on, like, maybe you've been dragging your feet on a platform. Maybe you're like, I just did this freebie thing over here. I've got a free email and I've got a free website hosting thing over here, and I'm just going to wait and see if anything pops. And now you're convicted that, no, I am meant to do this. I'm meant to go all in. Get the platform, girl. No one has ever, the ones who actually make it, they never regret going all in on having the systems and the tools that they need to be able to actually do all the things right now. Like, just get it all working together from the beginning. Don't make yourself like crazy, because I was just teaching about this in the launch lab. You think to yourself, oh, well, I'll get this free thing and I'll get this free thing. And then before you know it, now you're trying to figure out how to get them to all talk to one another. And there's too many options on the market right now for you to get all of your sales and marketing platform in an all-in-one product. You want to have your email list and your website and everything integrated, because it's a lot easier. It saves you so much time when you can do drag and drop builders. You can drop your opt-in forms right into your website pages. You can do your landing pages there. You can do all of your client management there. You can take payments, everything, all integrated in one place. Okay. So that really is, like, I'd say do one micro step this week that actually says, this is who I am and I'm doing this. I'm going all in. I think that for some of you, it's going to be like, go find something like that where you can say, I truly am in this to win this. And I'm going to spend a little bit of money, and I'm going to actually build for real. I'm going to actually lean in, and I'm going to be this. That's what I think. All right. All right. So that's what we have for you today. I hope that that's been helpful. I'm really looking forward to these next few weeks, really digging into the entrepreneurial mindset biblically, because this one on identity, like, it's key. If we don't get this, if we don't understand that we've just got to, if God said it, that settles it, and we lean in, it can save us so much time and energy. It can save us so much heartache. And I learned it the hard way, but you don't have to. You can make a decision today to do the micro step, to do the journaling, and to do that micro action this week that moves you towards your true identity as a kingdom builder in the online business space. Hey? All right, friend, that's what I got for you. I hope that that was good. Come find me on Instagram. Let me know what you're building. Let me know that you're a listener. Okay. And until next time, I hope you have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.